Welcome to the Roundtable. I am Jennifer Eller, and with me today is my co-host Mike Hill and our producer Nick Wilson. Say hi, Nick.
Yay for Nick Wilson.
The Nick stuff.
And our guest today is Melissa Haneline. Welcome, Melissa.
Good to be here.
Hey, you want to know the power of influence? So you know how many
You already shanghaied me, dude.
No, wait, hold on. I got to say this before I forget. No, listen.
Okay.
Before we
listening.
get into this. So you know how, you ask everybody, because this goes into what you're doing to do. Ask everybody, what they're watching. And what
I was going to start out with something different, but go ahead.
Okay,
Is this how it goes?
Go ahead. No, everybody was saying Suits. So last night I watched the first episode of Suits.
I've only started an episode.
It was actually really good. I was super surprised.
It is the most watched TV show on Netflix.
Yeah, the power of influence. So you've been asking all these people, and there's been tons of people that said that's one of the things they binge watch. So I'm we got home late last night, and I'm yeah. The problem was it's an hour and 20 minutes an episode.
Yeah, I don't even know what show that is.
At least maybe that was just the first episode.
I think that was the first one because.
And I'm sitting here looking okay, bedtime. I try to keep a pretty strict bedtime, and that's over. So I'm sorry I shanghaied it. I just had to say.
Yeah, my son wanted me to watch Yellowstone with him, and I'd heard about it, but I didn't even. I knew Kevin Costner was in it. That was enough for me to at least give it a swing. And a couple episodes in, I said, "This show sucks." You write in, and I have to worry. Now I'm worried about the Duttons every day. I hate it.
So you ended up liking it.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't leave it alone. And he says, now, don't watch it when I'm not home. I said, oh, for heaven's sakes, don't worry. I didn't even worry about television. And he came home the other day and I said, well, if you want to turn it on, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
He said, oh, yeah. Okay.
So did you like Rip?
Oh, I love the way that he developed over the course of time.
Yeah.
But Beth is so unrealistic. You cannot be that big a monster and then get a romantic guy like Rip. It just doesn't work. Yeah, she is every negative stereotype with every girl fantasy all rolled up into one. It just doesn't work. She walked in the light colored shirt with the darker bra kind of thing. And I said, she's a monster, right? We're not supposed to like her. I said, well, trust me, that
you knew that
subliminal.
just
Yep,
from
I know.
watching.
I know what she's going to be like. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we got another Yellowstone fan. You ended up watching it all the way through, didn't you?
I haven't seen all of it, but I saw a lot of it. There's
Okay.
a couple seasons I haven't seen any.
You
of
just
it.
petered out or what?
Okay, my husband goes on binges and he just starts watching it. And then I got mad at one time. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just done with that because you can't wait for me. So.
Oh, you mean he gets ahead?
Oh, because he can't sleep sometimes. So he gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and he's watching all these shows. And then, I'm 3 hours behind him, maybe at 7 on the weekends or so, and so he's been all this time
I never
watching
get
TV.
it. Eric
so.
sends me stuff all the time from social media. I'll say all the time.
Yeah, a lot. I know, yeah.
So he sent me this
More than
Shadrach,
once.
Meshach, and Abednego thing. It was powerful. And I'm like, how do you find all of this stuff? And his answer was, Siri listens to you. Because it just pops up. So, I guess it just pops into your feed if you talk about things.
He's on Instagram a lot.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
he fills me up with a lot of stuff that I don't ever listen.
That
watch.
was his answer.
Yeah.
He's like, Siri listens to you.
Yeah.
Sorry
so.
to interrupt.
Take two.
Listen.
Take 2. Okay, so
And
Melissa.
scene.
No. So you were just so fun to have conversations with, that the conversations we have had. And so I just kind of want to know, what is the craziest thing you have ever done in your life?
Oh, mercy. I did
Wow.
not know
Because
this.
you are a good storyteller. And so I cannot wait to hear this.
Well, probably my favorite thing to do is there is a song by Carmen called Holding On. And he and a girl, Carmen, I don't, he would, oh, you don't know Carmen? Oh, I'll fix
he was
that.
actually going to be in concert here. And then
Oh,
he
the guy that died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at him dying.
he simply-
I'm just Life Church has a concert and the guy dies.
He is simply living
Sorry,
somewhere else.
Carmen. I didn't mean it
He's
against
going to
you.
enjoy singing backup for me when I get there. It's going to be great.
Okay, I'm
Anyhow,
sorry, Carmen.
he has this absolutely, he could have been a lounge singer. But
what?
God got a lounge singer. He just can do all different types of music. He was just amazing.
What's a lounge singer? I'm like serious, like
something
a,
in like the 70s.
you know what
a
I'm thinking
leisure
of?
suit
I'm thinking
and
of this like seedy like place where everybody's smoking and that guy's up there with his hair greased back, that
Yep.
lounge singer.
of.
Yep.
So you see Carmen in the lounge.
No, I'm saying that he could have been
Oh,
had
okay.
God not redeemed him. He has all the qualities and the talents that are needed to be able to do that well.
Okay.
Anyhow, we were at the church that I was in. I had a situation where the pastor left, and a new pastor was supposed to be there Sunday night, and he was late, some kind of travel issue. But everybody showed up to meet the new pastor who wasn't there yet, and so the oldest person in the thing was in charge, and so he says, "Oh, Melissa will come up here and sing something. Oh, so and so is going to share a scripture." He just kind of put it together. And it was so much fun. We enjoyed it so much that they started doing every month that had a fifth Sunday. Sunday evening was just a hodgepodge, bringing
Like
whatever you want.
improv.
Oh, it was so much fun. My oldest son was learning to play the tuba, and so he played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but it was an ode to the three wise men.
On the,
It was
in
the kind
church, a
yes, it was
tuba.
the kind of stuff that wouldn't fit on a Sunday morning.
Okay.
One girl who was really good at gymnastics, she did this whole little routine to Stephen Curtis Chapman's The Dance. Just really fun stuff. But one of the nights that they were doing that, I dressed up half and half. I put a skirt on and folded it so that I was a female on this side and male on this side, because I dressed up for Carmen as Carmen before for a youth group thing, and so I thought this would be fun. And so I the makeup down because all my hair was on one side, and so I went up and I would turn to this side while I was doing the female thing, lip sync, and then I would turn to this side when it was so much fun, and. So
How do you ever think of these things? Like,
Oh,
what is going on in your
you said the
psyche?
craziest thing.
No,
I'm
I
trying to
know.
build
I'm
up
just
to it.
thinking, wow, like,
Yeah.
how do you come up with that?
All of this is just the build up for it. So I pulled that off, and it was just so much fun. I had a hat that kind of split down, and I put a sign on it, and it said, "Hold it on," so I would bend down and point to it when I was the chorus where they were both singing, because, of course, I didn't know what to do with that. But people heard about it, and then there was a command performance when the new pastor actually got there, kind of thing. They wanted me to do it again. I thought, yeah, okay, let's introduce him to that end of the spectrum. And so I had my son and daughter went up there, and they said, "My mom and my mom together again."
Oh,
And I
wow.
did it again.
That's funny.
So do you dress up for Halloween?
Oh, I had a whole room when I lived as a single woman. We would dress up for work
You had
things.
a whole room of...
Of costume type stuff.
You know what I'm picturing? Have you ever seen those shows, like when people like really get into things and then you walk in and it's like a shrine to it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just walk in and like they love Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
you know, and so there's all of the Freddy. I'm thinking like you'd walk into your house.
Yeah.
What would your shrine look like?
Okay. Well, see,
Like
now
what's your costume
it-
stuff in there?
it wouldn't be stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
If there's a shrine in my house, it's my yarn.
You're who?
My yarn.
Oh,
I
got
love
it.
my yarn. I love to knit. But I would just kind of collect things as they
Okay.
came along. If I'd see something, I would find.
You collect costumes.
Well, not so much costumes
Oh.
as just different pieces of attire, and then I would think, oh, that would work for this. When I was in college, I didn't go to college until I was in my 30s, and you get a little badge that is your ticket for everything. You can put money on for the copier, it gets you in and out of sporting events, it's your library card, everything. I lost the cussed thing. And so I went to them and paid the $20 to get a new one. Well, as soon as I got the new one, of course, I found the old one, and they had misprinted the new one, and it didn't have the barcode, it didn't have the magic in it. And so I took it back and I said, well, I want my money back. Well, we can't give you your money back, but we can reprint it. And so I waited until it was Halloween, and I dressed up as Peg Bundy, and I got my picture taken that day. I still have it. It was fun. But
Yeah. So Peggy Bundy.
yeah, Peg,
That's
and you don't have to do. You can find Peg Bundy stuff at Goodwill anytime.
What is your craziest thing that you've ever dressed up like?
I haven't dressed up since I was like a kid.
You never did anything when you were in high school?
I don't remember that.
Jennifer, do you need some sort of memory pill?
Yes,
Just
I
high
do.
school.
I do.
I mean, you
We
got to remember
I don't
We
something.
should
think
just
I
do a
did.
costume
Nick.
party here.
I don't think
We'll
I
catch
did.
you back up.
I dressed up like a woman, and I was a good-looking woman.
I assume you didn't have your
A
beard.
Good, huh?
You didn't have your beard,
Oh,
I
no, I
presume.
couldn't grow a beard in high school, but like, man, they had makeup on me.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, when we did the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s during customer service week at the job I was at, on when everybody else was doing the 70s and tie-dyed and hippie and everything, I dressed up as a librarian with a great big beehive hairdo
Oh,
and
wow.
everything.
Oh, my
I crocheted things to hang on my glasses.
Yeah.
It was really fun. But my grandson at the time, he's 14 now, so he was 2 or 3. Then he could see right past the costume, and he just knew that
he
was
knew.
Grandma. Well, I'd gotten ready and all dialed, all duded up to go to work, and I just lived down the street, so it didn't take me long to get there. Well, it was garbage day, and the trucks were coming, and he loved to watch the truck, and I do the noise and everything. Well, he watched them one way, and then they were coming down the other way, so I scooped him up and went outside, so he could see. And the guys are looking at me really weird, and I'm thinking, what's the matter with you? Never saw a kid. Oh, it's me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's funny.
But, yeah.
Wow.
There's not.
Nick, you never said. What did you dress up like? I interrupted you.
I dressed up as Wayne from Wayne's World one time.
Right
I
on.
was pretty good with that.
No, I did. Eric and I and my sister dressed up because I remember when you said unrecognizable. So you always think you're not going to be, but we dressed like up as old people, and we had pantyhose over our heads and went to my grandparents' house. I'll have to
Were
find
you
a
a
picture.
bank robber? I mean, old people don't put pantyhose on their head. I mean, I dressed up like an old person, old bank robber.
I don't know why we did.
Either way, yeah.
But you're standing there, and they're so kind. They were so kind. They were like, "Are you so and so? Are you so?" You look at the picture, you know exactly who it is. But that made me think. So that was probably the last time. Well,
Okay.
no, when Trevor was a baby, Eric and I were NK salespeople because we had
You were who?
NK salespeople
Oh,
because that's what
got
we
it.
worked for. Trevor, but
Yeah.
that was like the last time. It stresses me out trying to find all that stuff.
To do Halloween?
To dress up like that, all the stuff that it takes to pull off an outfit. I'm like, I don't have time for
Yeah.
that. My memory can't.
Well, every once in a while, you
Can't
go
do that.
through seasons where
Yeah,
you've got time and
yeah,
when you don't.
yeah.
The joke was on me one day. We had this 2-day kind of festival thing, and it was all New York themed. And so I came in. I had a friend of mine had a yellow shirt with like the checkered collar kind of thing, and so I rolled up an old toilet paper tube and stuck black plastic in it so it looked like a cigar. And
gosh.
I walked in and I said, "Hey, anybody ask for a yellow cab?" And everybody's just howling with laughter, and I'm thinking, "Yes,
Yeah.
I nailed it." Dress up day was the next day.
yeah. You did it
So-
on the wrong day.
Yeah,
That's
and so then the next day, of course, I can't come in as Mr. Yellow Cab again. And so I got a Guitar Hero box and put a bunch of change in it and put on a stocking cap and drew on 5 o'clock shadow and went as Between Gigs rock star.
Oh my god.
Well, somebody took a picture of it and I showed it to my son because it looked like him.
Yeah.
Everybody thought I would show them, and he said, "I spent 25 years thinking I looked like my dad. I was wrong."
Yeah, maybe that would
That's
be a thing that we need to do as a staff, or maybe a Sunday morning. Come dress like who you want to be, not who you are.
Oh, I'm down.
oh my.
Yeah.
Like who you want. I'm getting my cowboy hat. I just try to look for excuses I can wear the stuff I want to wear.
You're gonna
So I come up with Sunday things that are like, hey, what? If
Train
you could,
station Mike is
if you
coming
could-
out.
If you could dress up like anybody or anything, would you change? Like, would you want to
My favorite movie was Pretty Woman, so I think if I could have all the jewels and the pretty dresses and just like
what's her name?
Julia Roberts.
Okay, so you'd come like her.
Not really like her, but
Kind of like that.
kind of maybe.
Nick? Or I could be Mike Ditka. Who?
Maybe a guy from Suits.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I gotta
You would
figure
get
this
all
out.
fancy?
Oh yeah.
Yes, that would be fun. Get all Nick all fancied up.
Yeah.
What would be fun is to see Nick on Sunday morning, the shoeless wonder, in a suit, right? So he's up there playing, and he's got no shoes on with his little fancy suit.
Okay,
That needs to happen next time. Are you up again soon?
I think I'm up in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm thinking it will be really fun if everybody puts on a beard and a sleeveless plaid shirt and we all come as Mike Hill.
I
Yeah.
wish that I could wear my sleeveless shirt.
What?
That was not me. That
Well,
was not
I
me.
have to tell you, it ministered grace to me because I was what you would call church damaged. I was raised Catholic. That's a whole thing by itself. And then was thrown into the Baptist end of the pool and nobody warned me. That was interesting. But then things fell apart and the enemy loves drama and he managed to stir up a lot of it. And so I was just out of it. I loved Jesus. It was his fan club I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
I saw a bumper sticker like that once of that. Yeah, I thought that's me.
Yeah.
But there was a measure of realness to the way that you approached everything that you did that just was a breath of fresh air to me. And when you showed up in equal parts Grizzly Adams and Larry the Cable Guy, I thought, oh, yes.
Yes.
And I would play a game that I called evens or odds, how many times you would say, holy crap,
Oh, yeah,
during your sermon.
Yeah, I say enough of the wrong things sometimes.
Well, just this last week, you said something, and I thought, oh, that's my pastor. Yes, I love him.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you.
There was a church nearby where I lived, and it said, give God your Sunday best. And I thought, and show him your Wednesday worst. He knows it anyway.
Yeah.
He knows it. Stop posing. Stop posing.
No, I am with you that the turnoff of the unchurched to the church is a lack of authenticity. That I think as people come, I think they're looking for authentic people.
Yeah.
Whether it's people that are serving in the church or people that are in the church or people that are preaching from the front. They just want to come where everybody's just like, it's not a polished version of anything. It's just, here's who we are. Here's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, well, and there's that nice middle ground between polish it up and never let anybody see the underbelly of what's going on and the celebrating the sin.
No,
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
this is just how God
No,
made
I
me.
agree.
No, there's stuff you have to work on, and when you do a fleshly thing, you should be the first person to say, "Whoop, that was me."
Yeah.
You know,
But that's what I think is authenticity. I don't think authenticity is living in sin or living polished. I think authenticity is recognizing you make a mistake.
yeah. Well,
you
and
know, or
that
can make mistakes.
that we have this treasure in earthen pots.
Yeah.
You know, the earthen pot's not the highlight of that verse. It's the treasure
Right.
that shows from outside. I am a cracked pot.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and he uses me.
Yeah.
So we've covered crazy.
We kind of went in all areas. You might as well just jump in. Let's get into her life. 'Cause
I guess tell us your story. You have some stuff you want to talk about. So, what did your childhood look like? When did you find Jesus? We're just going to kind of.
Do you have an outline that you want to follow?
Well, when you had a few weeks ago, you had somebody on the podcast that was just kind of sharing what was going, and the tagline of taking your next steps toward Jesus together, I thought, how many of those have I done here? And so I'll revamp the salvation story. I'm the second of 10 children so far. We just say that so far thing to make people's faces do that. I became a mother 6 days before my mother had my 9th sibling. So I was a teenage mother, was not a planned pregnancy, and I finally got my nerve up to tell my parents that I was expecting when they announced that they were. And I thought, bad day, I'll wait.
I didn't want to laugh.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
Nobody could make that up. Hey,
I would write my life story, but they'd put it on the fiction shelf. Yeah. But I thought, it'll still be news later.
So is this somebody you were in relation? Like it's somebody that you were dating at the time?
Oh, it was lost puppy syndrome.
Okay.
I wanted to go to a concert. He was able to drive. I had extra money, so we didn't know until after we were dating that I'd purchased his ticket. And that was on a Saturday night, and I needed a friend with me that would say, yeah, that's a bad idea, but nobody was there.
Okay.
And so then I saw him on Monday morning, and I thought, really?
Mm.
Wow. And there are people who have good fathers who love their kids and are kind, and I had the other one. We were farmhands. We were in the way. My father would line us up when we would go to all-you-could-eat restaurants, which is the only ones we ever saw because there were so many of us, and would have us remember what age we were so he wouldn't have to charge any more than, wouldn't have to pay any more than what was I've been this tall since 5th grade, and it was like he was angry at me for being...
Yeah, so you couldn't lie about your age.
Yeah, everything that was what God made me, he would view as a detriment. One of the things that I prayed for before I came here is that I would tell my story and not throw other humans under the bus.
Sure.
But there are some things that, if you did it, you have to own it. In front of a bunch of his friends at an auction, I finally got picked to go somewhere with him, and I felt so special, and this is going to be so great. And in front of them, he said that my bra would fit me better backward.
Like your dad?
I think I was 14.
Says this
Wow.
thing?
Yeah. Ha ha ha. Wasn't, real knee slapper. Even into my adult life, I was driving somewhere far too fast. My driver's training was go, that was whoa, figure it out. Because he'd already paid for driver's training for my older sister, and he wasn't going to do that again. But I just kind of figured it out, and I was driving too fast, and I hit gravel on the side of the road, and just, I remember the thing hitting, the roof of the car hitting the ground 3 or 4 times, and I landed right side up. I was happy about that. I saw a woman running down the hill toward me, and she didn't have wings, and I thought that was probably a good idea. And I say I walked away from the accident about 4 steps, and then I fell down. I couldn't have told you what my name was. I mean, I was just so shaken up. And she said, "Do you smoke?" "I smoke. We should smoke. Everybody smoke." And she was lighting them up 2 at a time and handing them out.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I called my parents to come get me because the car was obviously not drivable. And my mother picked me up to bring me to the house, and my dad was supposed to take me to my husband and children's home where they were waiting for me. But he had to stop somewhere first, and he had to jawbone with somebody forever. And I was so sore, and I had glass embedded in the side of my tongue. I was just so miserable, and I just wanted to get home. And I heard him say, well, we need to wrap this up. And I thought he's going to say I've had a daughter who's, had an accident. He said, "I got a pig at home that's in a bad way."
Oh, wow. So can I just
Sure.
So do you think part of the struggle, because you said you got pregnant when you were a teenager, right? And so did part of that struggle of figuring out with men at that time come from not having a father?
Sure.
Yeah, do you feel like that's a part of the...
Well, and I can see it in retrospect, but of course I couldn't see it
No,
then.
for sure.
I just thought the
now
world was
when
a
you're
mean
looking
place.
back, do you think that's part of the struggle? Because, we're always saying, Dad, you need to be involved. You need to, with your daughters especially, because it is such a huge thing on who they pick, what they look for, what's expected out of a man, type of a thing. So.
Well, if you've seen the movie War Room, there's a scene. Oh, no, I take it back. The other Kendrick movie, Courageous. There's a part where the one officer takes his daughter out for dinner and gives her a ring, and she is staring at it with her little feet up in the air, and no boy is going to be able to give her some trinket and walk her away from that, because she knows not just that her dad values her, but that he values her and he wants to be involved in the choices that she makes. I had neither of those.
Right.
Yeah.
So did your dad, assume you have other sisters, did he treat all of you the same way? Did he treat your brothers that way?
No, he worked my brothers nearly into the ground, to the point where he actually even apologized for that, as when they got to be adults. Uh, he and my mother had an odd relationship. I look very much like my mother. I think he just didn't like me.
Mm.
So he didn't treat your other sisters that way.
No, from what I have gathered from them, they had a much different relationship with him than I did. When I finally did tell them that I was expecting, my mother said, "You're going to have to tell your father." And I thought, well, no, I don't want to do that at all.
Right.
And but I didn't get a choice, and so I walked in and I explained to him that I wasn't going to be going to college right away. I was going to have a baby instead. And he said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you that your mother and I are disappointed in you. I think you know that already." And I didn't hear anything else for a while. And I thought, "You're disappointed in me, are you?"
And so at this point, you get married? Okay.
Well, they were expecting my 9th sibling.
Right.
And my hope was I was the first person that this young man had ever been with. And so I thought maybe it'd be special. And it wasn't.
Right.
We managed to be married for 13 years, produced 3 children. If there was a marriage book on the planet, I read it. This is so me. But we got married, and I was just determined we were going to have something good. I was going to make it happen.
Right.
Lots of times I hear people say that women are controlling, and I don't believe that's the case at all. I think we just do not like what it feels like when life is out of control. We don't need to be in control. We need somebody to do it, and if nobody else will, well, then we'll step in. Well, it was our first anniversary. It was a Sunday morning, and we had this cute little baby, and I wanted to go to church, and that sorry son of a gun would not get up. And so I cussed him up one side, down the other. I kicked the bed. I just threw a hairy, livid fit, and then I went to church. And I had gone forward at church a few weeks prior to that, but there was no emotion. There was no change because I wasn't repenting of anything. I was just joining a club. I just wanted to belong to something. Well, these crazy people wanted to take you out to the river and dunk you in full view of the highway. And I thought, I don't need anything to do with anything that. But I went to the service that morning and just wrestled with God. And as clearly as I've ever heard him say anything, he'd say, "If I asked you to do something big, you'd be there with bells on. Why won't you do this?" And I thought, okay. And the kind of church that I was a part of was just off the wall, zany, Pentecostal, wonderful people. And I stood up in the middle of it and I said, "I need to be baptized." And he says, "Girl, what you think we've been waiting for?" And they closed up shop and off we went. So picture this from my brand new 19-year-old husband's perspective. This screaming banshee left that morning with his kid. He doesn't know if I'm coming home. He doesn't know if I'm coming home with a weapon. And I come home soaked to the gills, just full of joy, thinking, I get it now. I get it now. I understand. I belong to somebody. And
was he super excited?
No, he didn't. He had seen his parents flip in and out of relationship. But eventually he started to see that this was something different with me, and I genuinely wanted to be kind. And there were choices that he made in life that just would not fit with walking with God. And so he came to a point of decision. Are you going to go this way or that way? And opted to not be anywhere near me. And I had promised my kids they would not live with a divorce. I did not want that. And there wasn't much choice for me. I was trying to figure that out when my brother-in-law was killed in an industrial accident, left a 30-year-old sister with 4 little kids, and the church family that I was a part of at that point, because there was a strike at that facility. He was in maintenance. He would have, if he'd been hired in a week earlier, he'd been fine, but he got hired in later, and so all of this horrid stuff was going on. Nobody was safe there at church, so I went to be with my family, and they were all at the bar. And so I didn't start drinking until I was in my 30s, and oh my goodness, you can catch up in a hurry.
I never knew that was a part of your journey.
Oh, there was one point where I was talking into a banana, apparently. Somebody had a picture of it, and somebody asked, "What in the world is she doing?" And my younger brother said, "Catching up." Yeah. Every time he would buy me a beer, he said that it was contributing to the delinquency of an elder.
Wow. So just to make sure everybody's following the timeline.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
you're married, you have kids.
Yep.
How many?
3.
So you have 3 kids, and then the marriage goes south because
at the point where we lost this family member, his name was
sorry.
Bobby, then we got thrown into the deep end of the whole drinking culture. And I woke up at one point, literally, when I realized that I did not remember anything from last night. And I thought, I got kids to raise. I can't live like this.
So both of you had kind of jumped into
and he just never recovered from that.
Got it. Sorry. I was just trying to make sure we were following the the timeline of what that was, because so everybody can make sure we know where we're at.
Well, and when you've lived it, you kind of hit the highlights, and you know where the in between
so you're
stuff
30.
is.
So you're 30 years old. You're getting a divorce. Where again? Are you from around here? Is all this happening around here?
Yeah, I grew up in Churubusco, right on the county line between.
So not that far away.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get to the place now. You guys decide to get divorced, and then does the drinking escalate?
Yeah. One of the nights that we would take turns, and one of us would drink, and the other one would drive the person home. Well, goodness, this whole "don't throw people under the bus" thing is going to be hard. He decided that he wanted to try swinging, and that was not trapeze type swinging. Wasn't good.
Does anybody want to explain swinging to our audience?
No.
I think they could just Google it if they need to know.
Yeah. Well,
what's wrong, Jennifer? You don't want to explain swinging on the podcast?
It's a level of friendly that's just not in the Bible. I'll just say it that way.
I don't know what swinging is, so no, I'm not going to explain it.
Yeah, well, even at that point.
So wait a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We can't just we just decided to swing. I mean,
she didn't
say she did. He did.
No, I know, but how does this happen? You're just sitting down for supper one night, you have a cup of coffee, and your husband's like, we ought to get into the swinging culture.
No, he came home to tell me that he'd been
to
so
he had tried
a place and had so enjoyed it that he signed us both up for the next weekend. Wow. And I was livid. And at the same time, I thought, I believe in marriage. And so my first instant thought wasn't, get away from me. It was, I said, I don't understand. I don't understand. Why would you walk up to a completely foreign couple to you and say, let's all get to know each other by having sex together without hesitation? He said, if he had a hot wife. I was his bride a decade ago, and now I'm bait. I was trying to come to grips with that, and I'm trying not to say a dirty word. I told him, I said, you're going to treat me like a whore, I'm going to act like one. Okay. There's logic for you. Wow. Okay. And so when it was my turn next time, I was being friendly with people at the bar, and he didn't like it. Oddly enough, if he signs it up, then it's fine. If I do it on my own, then not so much. But I had been, a week prior, I'd been walking the dog and had a pitcher of margaritas before I went, which is a bad combination. I thought the dog was coming with me, was actually going full tilt the other direction, and so I horribly broke my arm. And so I was in a sling, and when you're injured, everybody will buy you drinks at the bar, which is kind of fun. So I had a good time that night, but when I got home, he was not happy with me, and so he got it.
Because he wasn't at the bar with you.
Well, he was with and watching, and I didn't do anything horribly untoward. I just was not particularly caring if he was having any fun or not. I was in my own world. He got in the truck and started driving through the streets just crazy, saying that he was going to wrap it around a tree and I'd never see my kids again. And if that's how I was going to behave, I didn't deserve to live, and all of that. And so when he slowed down at a thing, I jumped out and I ran back to the bar, hoping to get some help. And because I was so inebriated, and because I don't know, I'm not a calm person. Everybody, he came in behind me, says, "Oh no, she's fine, she's fine." And so drove me around. And when we got home, I was just trying to get in the house. I thinking, just get me away from him. And he pushed me down on my broken shoulder, and I heard a voice across the street say, "Enough," just like that. I talked to the woman who lived over there. A few days later, she hadn't had a visitor. She didn't know where that voice came from. But 63 days later, we were divorced because it was, I went to the police station and I filed a report, but I didn't press charges because I told them, let me and my kids go or go to jail. That's your choice. I did not give myself 5 seconds to be alone. I met a person who was so unhealthy and so many red flags, and jumped just headlong into a relationship with him. We were married for about 5 years. I could blame him for a lot of awful things that happened while we were together, and I now look back and think only that would have knocked some of the stubbornness out of me that had to go.
So the swinger guy.
Yeah, first.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because he was the first guy or the second guy?
Yeah, that's the first guy.
Okay,
and
so that's all in one period of time.
Yeah, that's the first 13 years of marriage. So
Got it.
from
Okay.
18
Sorry,
to 30.
Yeah, so then into the second relationship, you get into that right away, and that obviously is not a good one either.
Correct. Yeah.
And either one of them. So again, just so people can follow along. So you get excited about Christ, right?
Yep.
So you give your life to Christ, and then in this period of being, I don't say off the rails, but probably not on the place where you need to be, were there times where you came back to God and be like, I got to get out of this. This isn't good. I'm in the wrong place. Or was it just, I'm out for a while and I'm coming back later?
Well, I kind of felt like God was as impotent to help me as my father ever had been. He didn't make any sense. He didn't
There's
fix
no reason to
things.
go back to somebody who can't help me.
Yeah. Yeah. But then in the midst of the second marriage, our church started Celebrate Recovery. And the only reason I went was to let people know I did not need to be there. I'm fine. Thank you. Terrified the first person that talked to me there. But I wanted to belong. I didn't like being alone. And so this was at a church up in Fort Wayne. I went early to church one Sunday morning, and I was sitting in the front just trying to stay. Everybody leave me alone.
Right. So hold on. What brought you back to church? Because it was like swinger guy, the next guy.
Yeah. Yeah. The
then
next.
was it like after the next guy? Like I'm trying to get.
Yep.
So this is what we're trying to help people realize is like you go through these ups and downs, and then there's these things, right, that bring you back. Like what brought you back? Like what woke you up to say, I need to get back into church? Was it just circumstances of the relationship, or was it like I had this epiphany at home? Or
in the second relationship, we would go walking in the neighborhood, and there was a couple out front of their house, and they said, "Well, could you come in for a minute?" I said, "Well, we'll come in, but it won't be just for a minute."
Yeah.
And we befriended them, and they were at that church, and so that's how we those providential relationships.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good for us to remember. Always inviting people in, take time for conversations, because you never know.
You never know where that's going.
Perfect. So I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that people could see what brought you back.
Yeah.
And so you get into Celebrate Recovery, and
while I'm kind of checking out Celebrate Recovery and still just miffed that anybody would think I would need help, I was sitting in the front of the church, and the pastor at the time had a daughter who looks a lot like I did at her age. And she came in and she sat next to him, and he put his arm around her and kissed her on the top of the head. And I could have killed them both. I was so mad. Oh, the sight of him just
Because that's
ele-
what you wanted.
well, I don't know. There was just something so disgusting
Hmm.
about that sickening display, and nobody was there to see it. And it was almost like I could feel Jesus put his arm around me, and he said, "You're sick.
Mm.
You're sick, honey. Happy people shouldn't make you mad."
Mm.
The first step in recovery is to admit
Yeah.
that you're powerless and that your life's out of control. And then I finally got it. Then I understood that I needed to be there. Working through the program, there was a woman who came in, and every week it's a lesson. 1 week, and then the next week it's a testimony. And in her testimony, she asked us to think of our life metaphor, what we think God sees when he looks at us. And I'm trying to come up with a good, unique answer so that I can be special. And she says, and I don't want, a good, unique, just word for word what was in my head, she said. And I thought,
Right.
okay. And it hit me. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I am a garage sale jigsaw puzzle. Picture on the front, kind of halfway ripped off. You're not sure what it is. There are black pieces in the bottom of the box that don't make any sense to anybody. And no matter how big a mess my life is, I really am more interested in helping you put your pieces together. That was so me. And I recognized that there was an intelligence that was so much bigger than me in that moment. What happens in Celebrate Recovery is after the testimony, you break off into small groups and you sit in a circle, and everybody gets 3 to 5 uninterrupted minutes. It ruined me. It ruined me for regular conversation, because you could, but it models prayer, because you have to talk about in full sentences what you're thinking and feeling, and nobody's audibly talking back to you. And as we were talking through that whole life metaphor thing, I realized how angry I was at God for letting me be broken and for letting me do it. So much of the pain that I dealt with up to that point was self-inflicted, but self-inflicted because I came at life with such unmet needs and hungers.
Right.
And
part of the anger is like, I didn't have the dad, I didn't have the husband. Yeah, just the
why not
losses or the tragedies of not having what you needed.
Yeah.
And now you're a victim of that.
Yeah. But then I realized that puzzles, when they're completed, are far more compelling than the picture that they started. And I remember laughing out loud at the thing. You're not supposed to respond when, you're supposed to just kind of be a backdrop but everybody giggled anyway. But I said, can you imagine the person who first thought up jigsaw puzzles? Hey, let's take a beautiful picture and hack it into 1,000 pieces and then we can sell it.
Right.
People must have thought he was nuts. But when I realized that God had a plan, and his plan was better than my plan, even when I liked mine, even when I hated his, his was better. I think at any point from that, from the baptism point forward, if I'd been taken out of this life, I would have been redeemed. He paid the price to do that. He was not my Lord until then. From that point forward, I have not looked back. And I remember there's a Ray Boltz song called "The Anchor Holds," and I sang it for someone in the congregation, and it was profound to me then. But then decades later, I stumbled across it when I was talking to somebody about something else, and I sang it, and I thought, oh my goodness, so much more now than it was then. But here at Life Church, because of the church damage and all of the other stuff, I loved him. I didn't know how to interact with his people. I'd been such a rule follower as a little kid because I thought there was safety in that. And then I realized there was no safety whatsoever in following the rules. But neither was there anything good from breaking everyone that you could come across. So I actually found Life Church because I was looking for a gym.
Seriously?
And yep, I didn't know that the church was attached to Champs Academy, and so that's when it started. I had lunch with Jennifer and just interrogated her.
You guys met right in the beginning?
Yeah, we had a couple hour, 2 to 3 hour lunch.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
but I
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was in.
Because I feel like you've been here for a long time.
Yeah, it was in the
5 years.
summer of 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to look back in the things because it was post COVID that
okay.
I came in. But I set up a time with you because in looking for a church when I moved here to Huntington, I actually had one that has Baptist in the title, but they gave me a talking to because I clapped along to Victory in Jesus, and I thought we're just not going to get along.
I just can't fathom why people have. Yeah.
I mean,
It's all another
I get
story.
if it, there are things that people can do in a church service that would make me uncomfortable.
Like.
Like some of the liturgical dancing, I just think is so weird.
Well, what if somebody did it? Because I think it.
Well, it's
now
one
that you
thing
said
if
that,
they.
I want to see somebody do it just to see how you react.
Yeah. What? Well, and, okay. Well, let me
just
say this.
kidding.
No, it's fine. Because this is going to be so circular. I knew it would be even when I put my list together. The first baptismal service that we had here, I sat in judgment of so many people because they weren't ready. And they didn't this, and they didn't that, and well, why won't you counsel them this way? And I would have done this different. Yeah. And then, God is so kind to keep working with people who are so argumentative about the way He's doing things. Yeah. I still have my own convictions about what should or shouldn't be, kind of thing. I am so less prone to tell people what they ought to do, because that's not nothing that I did was textbook, just like you're supposed to do it at all. Right. But I know He knows me. Yeah. I know Him. You were talking about this past week in the sermon. The only thing that got burned off was their bonds. Mm-hmm. I'd heard that before, but I recognized and something that people don't know is now I'm in a third marriage, and I really thought it was great and it was wonderful for 5 years, and then I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where that's going, but it isn't going well. Right. But the bonds that have burned off of me have not been a relationship. It hasn't been a person. It's the belief that I can only serve God one way. And that if this doesn't happen, then everything's ruined. If that happens, then everything's ruined.
And that you might be doing liturgical dancing.
I probably am not going to do that. Well, there's something about orchestrating something that's supposed to be a move of the Spirit that I find unnatural. So I am sure that there are people who do that absolutely unto God. And God in His kindness has kept them far, far away from me.
Yeah, I just have said, and I mean, I want to talk about this on Sunday. One of the things I love about Life Church is the diversity. Like it's diversity of age, it's diversity in the way people worship, it's diverse in socioeconomical, and I love that because I think the biggest problem in the church is they become microcosms of just one culture. Like we're this church or that church, or we're the raise your hand worshipers and run around, or we're the, so like this week, there were people up at the altar and there were people not at the altar, and I'm like, this to me is this is heaven, right? Like this is what heaven's like. Lots of different people, lots of different ways of worshiping. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. I always would feel sorry for people who weren't hand raisers. Yeah. I'm thinking, what's the matter with you? Get over yourself. And again, God in His kindness, here at Life Church, I was, I could see a couple rows in front of me, a woman that just was, if she could have stood on her tippy toes, she'd have been there. And her husband right beside her with his hand on the small of her back, just anchoring her. Yeah. And I thought they're both doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Yeah. I have a deep burden for people to get it and to get out of their own way kind of thing. And I've had to do that a time or two in my life. One of the first things that happened is on Eve, a couple years ago, I was in a bad situation. Nothing in my life seemed to be working, and I came to church just to hide from everybody. And Christmas, I'd never done an Eve service here, and I'm thinking, what is he going to tell me about Christmas that I haven't heard 20 times? But it'll be an hour that people will leave me alone. And you talked about Jesus did not come to forgive our sins, and you had my attention. I thought, where's he going with this? And you said that he came to redeem us from our sin because forgiven sin still kills things. I had just lost my mother-in-law at that point, and everything I had ever seen of the 8 years that I knew her, I didn't see anything godly in her. People who had more of a history with her did. And I remember I went to my husband and I said, I'm not trying to talk you out of it. Just help me.
Right.
Give me something to go on, because I was genuinely concerned for her soul, and it was too late to do anything about it.
Right.
I had asked her once to pray with me. We watched the War Room movie together, and then I asked her if she'd meet with me once a week to pray for our family, and she got mad. And I thought, that's probably not an offer that should anger you
Right.
if
right.
things are good.
Right.
So I had my own reasons for being concerned, but I still don't know what. But there was something about recognizing that sin in anybody's life is going to kill things, but that doesn't mean that Jesus paid a big enough price that anybody gets in, and
Right.
we all technically get in by the skin of our teeth.
Right.
We don't offer a lot to that. So that was one of the first things that we did as far as the actual service. But after I met and interrogated Jennifer, I had
Interrogation.
yeah,
That's a good way to put it.
It was pretty much like that, because I had gotten to know church families, and then the leadership decided that I was poison, and they just didn't want me to come back.
Right.
I didn't want that to happen again. I
Right.
didn't feel like I had that in me. So after I interrogated her, I signed up to interrogate you, and you met with me for lunch, and I shared with you the ugliness of the way I'd been asked to leave a church in Fort Wayne that I really cared about. And with equal measures of intensity and tenderness, you looked at me and you said, I'm sorry that happened to you. I didn't know how much I needed to hear a man say, I'm sorry that happened to you, until you did it.
Yeah.
If we wanted to, we could pick a list of 25 things that we don't agree on enough that we could wrangle most
Me
of the
and
day
you?
over it. Yeah. Yeah. Trust me, we could.
Wow. No, probably. Probably.
And why would we?
Yeah.
Why would we?
For
But
sure.
what I came away from that conversation with, and I laid out, here's what I believe, here are the things that seem to bother other people. And you said, those are secondary issues.
Yeah.
And there was just such peace in that is Jesus cool with you? Okay, then I am too.
Right.
That was your attitude. And but you were very clear with me. It won't be an issue unless you make it one.
Right.
And there was something about the welcoming and protection at this in equal measures that was really appealing to me. When you preached about Jesus being worthy to open the scroll, I never knew. I knew there was some kind of Jewish thing to
Right.
do with that. But there was something so profound that God's got a wicked long game.
Right.
Oh my goodness, he's got so many things that he pieces together. That was really impactful to me. I really like that. The Lamentation Praise Night.
Oh, yeah. Another night of worship.
So good.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I think, transformed me.
Yeah.
I know it transformed you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
I
just.
know. And we have another one coming,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Pretty quick,
February,
isn't it?
February 16th at 7 p.m.
Yes,
Yep.
another night of worship. And if you've never been at a night of worship,
Oh,
I mean, you
do
have to come.
not
I
miss
mean,
it.
They're the
Do
best.
not
There are
miss it.
things that happen there. I mean, not to
Yeah.
say they never happen on a Sunday morning, but what happens in those nights only happens on those
Yeah.
nights,
Well,
I think.
The thing that drew me back to church was corporate worship, because you can't do that on your own.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Right.
And anybody who thinks that, who has the idea that heaven's going to be boring, I don't understand you.
Yeah. Right. Right.
That part of the service is never long enough to suit me, but we get there pretty well when we do the worship nights. Because my marriage was slowly deteriorating and falling apart, and it had been so good, and I really finally felt like, oh, good, I know how this works now. Having God develop a family kind of underneath me while that other side fell apart was so important to me. The Good Friday service, I came to that not really knowing what to expect, kind of thing. But I was having one of those days where I was kind of weepy anyway, and I thought, well, I'll blend right in there. No one will mind. But then I heard what you were going to do. There's a funeral service for Jesus, and it sounded so weird, I almost left.
Wow. Don't ever walk out of any of our services. They're too good.
It's so weird.
Ever.
It's
And
funny.
I got spotted by people who knew me, and I thought, no, I can't leave, which is a terrible attitude, really. And so I was sitting there, and the whole idea of having to write down and to approach it in that different light, and it just washed all over me the hundreds, literally hundreds of times that the exact right song has shown up on the radio or, that kind of thing. I thought I'd never thanked him for that. How many times?
Right.
How ungrateful could a person be to, it's not like he wasn't a person before that, but there was something about that just ripped off a whole layer of callus off my heart in that, you can tell I'm still not really past it. Oh, okay. Fast forward from that, in the midst of the first first ladies' Bible study that I came with such trepidation because girls don't like me, and men like me wrong. That was my view. And I got through it, and I talked too much, but I had stuff to say, and the book was really exciting. And every night, I go home and think, oh, they don't like me. I talk too much. All this stuff going in my head. And then two dear women who, if either one of them needs a kidney, I'll give them each one. I'm telling you, I love these ladies. They invited me to be in the next one. Individually, they asked me, would you please be a part of it, kind of thing. And I thought, I'm in. They like me. Yeah. But those ladies have just grown to the level of sisterhood. I've stayed at houses of the marriage that I'm currently in, that's on hospice, life support, whatever you want to call it. It's a mess. It was falling apart, and I ended up having to leave. I have a little bit of a feeling now of what it must have been like for God to close the door on the ark and say it's too late. There's some things that you just don't come back from.
Right.
But I was staying at the night at I ended up moving out of the marital home and in with my son up in Fort Wayne. And because of the timing of it, it wasn't that I wasn't welcome. It's just they had a bunch of stuff going on at his house that weekend that I would have been a fly in the ointment. I would have felt awkward. It wasn't a good time for me to be there. So these wonderful friends, I had my choice of places to stay. And so I stayed with Jessie the first night. She's got 2-year-old twins. One of them ran past her to hug me. That felt great. But then I fell asleep on a big cushy couch next to a wood burning stove kind of thing. It was just so beautiful. But then the next night I got to stay with Janet Clark. That woman is Jesus with skin on to me so many times. Well, then the next night was the last night that I had to be a refugee, last night vagabond kind of thing. And I was supposed to stay with Jessie again, and I was the kind of tired from moving where I would go to step in the truck and my foot didn't quite make it. And I thought, it's not safe for me to be driving. And so the house that I'd been living in was basically empty. Friends here at church with a trailer had helped me load up stuff and move it to storage. And I just felt carried that whole week, but it was just at the end time, and I was just going to go back and sleep in that house, just me and Jesus. It was going to be fine. Janet had other plans. She invited me over to her house and had this beautiful meal and just kind of an island of misfit toys kind of party, different people staying there. And we played cards, and I won little prizes that one of the guys brought along. All this time, in that last couple of weeks, God had me reading a book called Your Sacred Yes by Susie Larson, and it just didn't fit. me. It's all about, not taking on too much and not filling up your schedule. And I think, we figured that out a while ago.
Right.
But I've learned to trust his nudge over my reason. And so I was just plugging away through it. Well, that night at Janet's house, we had just been talking about the Message Bible and some of the ways that it phrases things that are so beautiful. And the Matthew passage about learn the unforced rhythms of grace.
Yeah.
I just love that. Well, we talked about that at dinner. I go to read that book at night before I fall asleep, and that's the verse. And I'm thinking, oh, that's cute, God. Sweet thing. But then the next morning, I read the second half of that chapter, and it's a woman named Bo Stern whose husband was diagnosed with ALS. So her husband was there, but not in the same form that she had expected. And she talked about the ugly cry. She went down face first and was just sobbing before God. And I remember it wasn't that many weeks ago that I had that same kind of moment. And I remember I just cried till I couldn't cry anymore. It's like, it was so wrong. It's so broken. I don't know what to do. And at the end of that crying time, I knew he was there. I knew he was in charge, but I didn't get any kind of message, any kind of word from him. I'm reading this story at Janet's house on that Saturday night, and she said that as she went face down, she could hear the enemy saying, your kids are going to turn from God. Your life's ruined. Nothing's going to be right. And I remember what it was like to have those nasty things whispered into your ear, and she said that she could hear God saying every minute. And she said, every minute, what are you talking about? And he said, I have been to every minute you will ever face, and I have left provision for you in every one of them. And I couldn't even get ahead of myself. That was Sunday morning, and then I had people here that I wanted to tell that to. I read it again later that night, and the phrase "in every one of them," that's not in there. I know that's what I heard. I know that's
right.
God could have just spoken to me that night that I was face down by myself, but in his kindness and the way that he works with me, it was the end of a scavenger hunt. There are so many things where God has just put the right person at the right place at the right time, sometimes to rescue me from absolute despair, and sometimes just to remind me, I got you. It's okay. So you were talking about on Sunday that people don't ask for the test, and they don't want that. I don't go looking for them. I don't. What I've been through this last year, I wouldn't wish on anybody. But when trouble comes, I don't get flustered about it the same way anymore. And that's me at 55. I can't even imagine what I'm going to be like when I'm 85. I was just relating to Janet, sweet, wonderful sister that she is. She came in and sat in early with me before we did the podcast to pray with me. And we were talking about Susie Larson again. She knows a gentleman who was sent to a missions field to encourage the staff there because everybody was really discouraged. And when he stepped off the plane, they said, "Can you feel it? Can you feel that darkness? Can you feel that oppression?" And he looked at them and he said, "I am indwelt by the Most High God. When I stepped off the plane, that darkness felt me."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When I first heard that, I thought, wouldn't it be great to feel that strong? And now I get it. Now I get it that it's not about being that strong. It's about getting out of the way and letting him show. One of the things that the ladies group did a couple years ago is they pick a word for the year, and I rolled my eyes, hopefully inwardly. I thought, oh, that's so silly. I don't know about that. But I thought, I like these ladies. I'll play along. And my word for last year was home. I had no idea what that was. One home fell apart, and one home has made itself. So I carry home with me. I can't be homeless anymore. Well, this year, I didn't have to ask. It just kept showing up, and it's reflection. Both looking back, reflecting on what happened, but being a reflection of him, I can do that.
Right.
Flawed me can do that.
Right.
To the extent that I will try to avoid sin, the things that I will try to do to honor his presence within me is not so that he'll love me. It's because he does.
Right.
Because I want to be a proper reflection of what he wants to do, not just for me. If he can do it for me, he can do it for anybody.
Yeah. So so we're at the end,
Yeah.
you know, so let's,
Perfect to sum that up, yeah.
Yeah. So if you could, because I think if you could sum up everything that you've talked about is that you've had a lot of struggles, a lot of trials, some obviously that, like you said, that part of the world puts on us, right? It's what you grow up in, it's the people around you, and some of it's self-inflicted, right? Like some of those same things. And I think the interesting thing to see is that you made a decision and you started to move forward, right? And I think this is where people get stuck. People get stuck in okay, I made a decision, I want to move forward, the trial should go away. But your story, and I think this is important. So in your story, you've still had trials. So if you could give advice to the people that are watching or the people that are going to be listening to say, this is what sustained me through the trials. Because you brought up lots of things, community, your own prayer life, your different people. But if you could say like this was monumental, because I think that's what some people out there today, this is where they are.
Okay.
They're struggling and they have no idea how to remain faithful in the midst of the trial. So could you give them some advice or help or thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. When I heard of a study that they did, and they were asking people who'd been married 50, 60 years. I'll never get that unless I live to be 120. Not going to make it. But one of the gentlemen who'd been married for 64 years said that love is what you've been through together. Just that morning, I'd read the scripture that says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough trouble of its own. And I thought, well, that's encouraging.
Right. Yeah.
Until I realized that what God was saying is every day, anything you go through, I go through it with you. He isn't a distant father who just lets things happen. Jesus felt alone on the cross. He wasn't.
Right.
He wasn't. God was on the cross redeeming the world to himself. My advice would be to just let Jesus in to every moment. There isn't anything he doesn't see anyway.
Right.
There isn't anything you have ever felt or dealt with or will that he hasn't faced already for you. He doesn't just watch me hurt, he hurts with me.
Right.
When I was putting together my testimony for Celebrate Recovery, I was drawn to the scripture that said that there was darkness from the 6th hour to the 9th hour. For 3 hours, all we know about Jesus is that he hung there and hurt.
Right.
He gets it.
Right.
He gets it. If you ask him, he will do what. He's not a genie in a bottle. He isn't going to give it to you just the way that you want. But love will be what you go through together. Don't go through it without him.
Yeah. Good.
If you don't see him there, invite him in. He'll show up.
Yeah. And I think throughout there, I mean, throughout your story, there's the power of decision, you know, where somebody you were walking by and they invited you in, you know, it's just a power of a decision. It wasn't like I have an ulterior motive. I'm going to invite him in and I'm going to start. It's one decision. And now we're looking at where you are today. Well, that one decision had an impact. It's the power of people willing to be on a journey with people, right? So your story talks about the people that were willing to say, you know what, we're gonna walk in the mess with you, whether it's through small group, whether it's through time in prayer, whether it's time in helping you move or giving you a place to sleep. I think that's the thing that we need to remember is that we need to be not just in Bible studies, but we need to be in the mess with people. And I think that's a powerful, you know, testimony to where you are.
Yeah. Well, and the Bible studies and the things that we do are just a way to get to know the people.
Sure.
Yeah. In your message on Sunday, you said, you know, you need to have people who are friends enough to say your life is garbage.
Yeah. Right.
You don't start there.
No. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But you have to know somebody enough to be able to say, I've seen good in you. I've seen that you want to face forward, and I see this other thing in your life that doesn't seem to fit. Let's talk about that. When you know somebody, you won't value people until you value God in people. And you don't know what he looks like in this person or that person, but it's worth finding out. It's worth finding out.
Yeah. So again, we'll continue to be praying for you because, like I said, I think that as you've settled some of these things, at least in the short time that I've seen you, as you start to settle some of these things in your life, I mean, I just see God continually using you in amazing ways as some of that stuff just gets worked through and worked out, and the ability to be able to give back to other people that are going through the same thing. So we'll be praying. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. When this goes out, make sure, are you a first or second service or both?
Yes.
Okay, you come to both. Yeah, so if you see her on Sunday morning, either one, first or second service, come up and say hi. She's usually in the second or third row.
If you need somebody to sit with, I'll be right next to you. So.
Yeah, in the middle there. So make sure you come up and say hi. When this goes out, make sure that you like, share, and comment so that we can make sure it gets on other people's feeds. I think it's a great story that a lot of people can learn from, and we're super thankful that you're here. So thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.